of questions that we're going to walk you through with respect to your own courses, but why don't we restrict this very brief brainstorming session, because we want to give you time for evaluations, just to experiments. Chuck approached this inductively, so let's start with an example and then generate the theory or the principle from that concrete example. I can imagine doing this deductively. I know you haven't done this, but you could present the theory or the principle and then provide some kind of experiment that would reinforce it. It would be a different kind of thinking. But I mean, I can already see the benefits to students in terms of critical thinking and utilizing experiments. So just reflecting briefly on the courses you will be teaching in the spring, maybe just jot down some notes about a possible experiment that you could run for your course, either kind of inductively or deductively. What would that experiment look like? What would it be intended to teach? You might even think about just what is my learning objective or goal for this particular experiment. So let's just take a couple minutes to do that, and then we'll hear and think together about how it might work. And we really do get to keep the candy?
Yeah.
Okay.
You really do get to keep the candy?
Have you ever known the economist to lie? Well, not the ones in the room anyway. You reading Frothy Rice?
Just one more minute, jotting down some notes about what you might do in terms of utilizing experiments in the classroom. And think about the space. Think about how you're going to arrange the room or arrange students to have a successful experiment. Some of you are still working, but we'll go ahead and start hearing a few of these. Tell me your name. Ann, okay. Ann, tell us what you have in mind.
Well, what I'm going to do is something I've done before, but with a couple of new wrinkles, because I'm in 303 Cashion, and I have the ability to have this team turn around and work on this team, so that everybody's at the same level. And I do this on the first day of class.
Okay.
After I had them all re-alphabetize themselves and get in the sections. Okay. Then we pass out straws and rolls of masking tape and a piece of paper. Well, actually, they use the curriculum paper that we just talked about through. And then they build, in a time constraint, they build a tower in their team. And they don't. They've met through orientation, but that's all they really know each other. They may not really know their team members very well. Mm-hmm. So they're going to work together to build a tower out of straws, using tape from the roll. They can't use the roll. They can't tape from the ceiling. They can't, all these rules that they can't, all these rules. Mm-hmm. And the goal is to, within the time period, have the piece of paper as high as possible, freestanding on the tower. No taping of the tower at the table. The paper can't be creased. It has to look just as good when you get done. And then before they start, I ask them, what are your resources? And so the paper, the straws, the whatever, and then our own knowledge, our teammates' knowledge. And they hardly ever think transparency, because they can see what other people are doing, even though we do talk about Cola Wars, that the Cola Wars does things like having the same size bottles for the industry, because that helps everybody, but nobody knows it. So they're transparent about that, but nobody knows each other's formula. So this is a case where there is transparency, and they can see each other. And finally they get around to talking about time, even though it's limited, is a resource. Right. And then we talk about in the real world how resources can change at any time. So during the course of the experiment, we stop them all and say, okay. You can have more time or more straws. Which do you pick? You can have both. And somebody's do that twice, and it's interesting that toward the end they want more straws. They always want more time in the beginning. And then during the last iteration, we go around and take somebody off every team. And then we talk, so then they had the straws, and we had the tape measure, we measure them, and we have applause, and then the next day is donut hour for the MBA program, and we announce the winners, and they come up and they get a little prize.
Okay.
So it's a little team, and of course MBAs jump into this team activity.
Mhm.
And then we talk about what all the different components. How did you feel when you had to leave your team?
Yeah.
Even though you've been working with your team for 4 minutes,
Right.
but they already are building
You're
loyalty.
invested.
They're already invested, and some of them are out there going, hey, don't forget to do. They're trying to talk. And so then we also talk about the team and how they feel if the person left. Well, that was the person who was ripping the tape off the thing. Now somebody else had to stop doing something else and start doing that.
Right.
And so we talk about that. And the interesting thing was, I did something similar to this when I taught in Illinois, and there were 300 in the class, so there were 75 people in the room. And so there were teams all over the room with 75 people. And at the end, at exercise, I said, okay, we can keep doing this exercise, or we can stop and go over to the midterm. This is not a graded exercise. Everybody wanted to stay with the exercise because they had such investment and team and whatever, even though it wasn't going to be graded. And so we talked about how that dynamic works when you have a good team dynamic, and how did they share it. If somebody had an idea and the idea they were using didn't work, did they feel comfortable bringing up their idea? And how was the leadership passed along the group? And all those things which you haven't even taught yet, it's first day class. And they all came up, and then we can refer to that exercise later in the teaching. And it really, it's a great icebreaker, as Chuck says, it's a great icebreaker. And they do all work together, and they see each other working, and so if anybody's hesitant, it's for a nanosecond, and then it's right into it. So, and it takes advantage of the space. People get up and they out of their chairs and so forth, and they get everything off the table, so it's just that. And so we really use that kind of space. If I were in a restricted classroom where they couldn't do that, it'd be a lot more difficult, it'd be awkward.
Right.
But this, they turn around, they can do it immediately, and then they turn around back for the discussion, and
It's almost a compass for the course for the whole semester. I mean, they kind of, now
So
they're
much is-
oriented toward what they're going to
all the
learn and
different, so many
referring
of the
back.
different topics we talk about, they're going to use. And then each
Yeah.
person reports out, so there's that
Right.
speaking for their team, and then other people adding and
Right, kind of peer teaching, collaborative learning. That's a great example. Let's hear maybe really briefly one from over here from Susie or Karen.
Well, I had thought of something, I haven't done this, but using your example, I will be teaching in this spring international finance, and a huge part of what we cover in international is exchange rates. And the value of a currency is the price of one currency in terms of another, and so it's simply supply and demand, unless you have government in the middle of it there. But it would be the same kind of thing. There could be some way I might be able to devise a trading example to show how exchange rates would change based upon supply and demand.
Yeah. You guys have thoughts about what you might do to demonstrate that change in currency?
Yeah, there's a whole category of games that are just double auctions, where you basically, and the way you do it with a standard supply and demand in a goods market is, someone's a consumer, someone's a supplier, and the consumer has a maximum they're willing to pay. The supplier has a cost to me, and they're just both trying to get the highest profit they can off of it. So the price works in there. And they always go to the equilibrium price. It's built into with the implicit supply and demand function. It always goes there. I don't know, because I don't know enough about currency markets to know how to create this notion of what's a euro worth to me as a dollar holder, and what's the cost to me. I don't know how you would work that out to get the key in this is heterogeneous preferences among the people, heterogeneous endowments of stuff, which is what creates the opportunity. So I don't know how you create that heterogeneity in the trading game in the currency market, but I think probably some kind of a double-sided auction trading game would probably work really well, where they just walk around and look for something to trade currency with. But you have to give them a reason why. So you need to think about what are the underlying dynamics in the currency markets that make people want to trade and be willing to pay more or less for a currency.
Matt, Karen, anything you guys want to add here?
I'm trying to think through all the different kind of topics I go through, and this specifically, I could almost use like equity theory, but there'd have to be some type of thing that they're doing to receive the candy, because this is the outcome, right? It certainly motivated our behavior to do certain things with it based on whether we felt like we were in a good position or a bad position, but we didn't really have input, we just were given it for free.
Right.
So I was trying to think if there would be ways to cause them to have some skin in the game, but you couldn't really say, well, those people that have A's, you get to come up here and you get the good bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I
Right.
was trying to think through.
Could you ask the students to bring something with a specific value?
To kind of to trade to get them a certain level of value, maybe.
I don't know.
So anyway,
That
You
would
could
work.
have some kind of a quiz to earn it.
Yeah.
So something that's just content for the class, out of the textbook. First one to find it,
Yeah.
you get this. It'd take a really long time to hand out the candy.
Right. Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay.
They should do the teams.
Mhm.
And then you get each team work together to do it. And so instead of 20 people, you have 5 because
Right.
14 or so.
And then give out several pieces of candy as rewards instead of just one or two.
Yeah.
Oh, here, you get this.
Yeah.
Here's the next thing, who wants it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Karen?
I'm sitting here trying to figure out how I could teach net present value and internal rate of return by experiment. I do give problems in class and I have the students turn around and work on the problems together and teach each other and did you do it right and then report out their answer.
Right.
But that's not.
Which is
the same.
great.
Yeah,
That's great.
that is helpful, but
Mhm.
that's very repetitive. So I just taught MPB today in class, and so I'm sitting here thinking, so that's gonna take me a while to devise something. I don't know if
You
there are.
might look
are
at
there
Charlie Holt's website and see if he's got
Find any
anything.
experiments?
Yeah, I just don't know what's there. Again, Tisha is the guru on these things in our department, and she just couldn't be here today I'm not even sure why, but she couldn't be here today. But I think that if we could get she sent me a chapter.
Okay,
that
we'll
she
send it to
has,
all of you.
I bet we
She
can
gives
send
us
it out.
permission.
We just need permission from her at least.
Are you
Sure,
familiar with that
sure.
penny game? I know Earl used it with the healthcare track students up in Dallas. There's something with pennies that after doing a few renditions, I'm just wondering if that would help your, I don't know.
I don't know what it is.
I was actually
Like,
thinking of the dollar value for yours.
On Susie.
I don't know, I can't remember it well enough, but I'm sure you're familiar with it. He had a whole lot of pennies and he passed them out and then people did different things with them and they ended up with a different amount of pennies and they did it in teams and then some people figured out right away how they could amass pretty much everything and that as they did their trading and the manipulation. I can't remember exactly what it was, but they knew they got to keep the money at the end, so that was the motivation.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well, we're going to provide you with this PowerPoint and all these materials you have electronically as well. So if you want to walk through all the different brainstorming exercises, you can think about configuration. But if you have 5 minutes, we'd love for you just to fill out briefly the evaluation, which is the last page in your handout. This is important and helpful because this is the first of these workshops, so we're now already realizing how we need to adjust the activities and sections of the workshop. And thank you very much for coming. Really great job.